record on this computer. You should have all gotten notification that the recording has started, by the way. Okay, perfect. So yeah, we're gonna get started. Oh, I cannot minimize. I will open the questions on my phone. Problem solving. Um, so yeah, if I'm looking down, it's just to open up the questions. So today we're obviously joined by five of our wonderful alumni, Karishni, Anton, Maaz, Tanvi, and Michael. And just so you, it would be great if all of you could quickly introduce yourselves, mention things like when did you graduate, with what degrees, what are your current or previous positions that you held, just so our people understand more about your backgrounds. I can pick on a person to start. Karishni, you can start.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Karishni. I graduated in December of 23 with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. And yeah, I used to be the president of this club as well. They're very nice to see a lot of familiar faces. I can see you two of Raj's, which is interesting. Also, uh, yeah, so I currently work as a software engineer at Bank of America. I work with their private cloud portal engineering team. Yeah, so very nice to see all of you here. Hope we can have a very nice and insightful discussion today. Yeah, I
All
think that.
right, I guess I'll go next. Thank you, Karishni. It's great seeing you again.
Mhm.
So hey everyone, I'm Maz. I graduated this past December with my master's in information, dual concentration in data science and IT management. Um, During my time at Rutgers, I was a TA and the graduate education chair for the data science club. Since graduating in December, I've been in the interview cycles and building my own little digital marketing startup on the side because in between my bachelor's and my master's, I worked in a lot of digital marketing companies. Well, not a lot, but two. And I worked in both the sales side and the data analytics side. Excited to, talk to everyone and provide some insight.
Okay, I'm gonna choose Tanvi next.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Tanvi. I graduated May 2024 with a double major in cognitive science and statistics, and I minored in data science. This was like before I even knew about the data science major. During my time at Rutgers, I was a research assistant for 2 years. I was also a part of the Arresti program. And since graduating, I've taken a gap year and now I'm back, back in on track, getting interviews and getting my place back. So it's really nice to be back. Excited to talk to you guys.
Of course, that's great to hear. And now to Michael.
Hi everyone. I don't know if anyone here was in the meeting. I was here a few meetings ago, but for anyone that doesn't know me, I was the founder and first president of Data Science Club. I graduated it. I graduated in January of 2023 with a bachelor's in computer science and political science and minors in stats and data science. And then after that, did a master's in data science for a year and graduated in January 2024. Now I'm working at the Institute for Defense Analysis down here in DC, and mostly spending my time not inviting journalists to chats.
And last but not least, Anton.
So yeah, hello everybody. Obviously, I was talking at the beginning, but if you don't know me, I'm Anton. I was similar to Michael's track actually. I just 1 year behind basically. I graduated with my bachelor's in the beginning of 2024 in with computer science and marketing, and then I went straight into the master's degree here as well for data science, and I ended up graduating in January of this year. And in terms of my experience, I interned at Bloomberg last summer, and then I started full time last month. So looking forward to answering some of the questions you guys have.
That's really awesome to hear. And then I guess the last general question, and obviously, if you don't feel like the question pertains to you, not all five of you have to answer like every single question, but please, as many people, if you think that you have a good response, feel free to respond. So, what aspects of data science initially attracted you to the field, and what ongoing challenges or interest has maintained your interest in this subject?
I guess I can start. Yeah. Uh, I think data science in itself is nothing but telling a story. You have a bunch of data, you're connecting the dots, identifying patterns, seeking value out of something. And personally, I love telling stories. So in my current role, I may not be directly working as a data scientist. It has nothing to do with data, to be very honest with you, but it has definitely given me a new, different perspective of looking at things. And you know, sometimes it is these skills that really help me be sort of efficient at what I'm doing. So I think yeah, so that's pretty much what's kept me going. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to go off of Karishni, that's also what initially drew me to data science. I'm a math person, so I started off with math and then I moved to statistics. And I was like, oh, data science is like actually applicable in the real world. So that's what initially drew me to it. But what keeps me going is kind of like the new era of data science and technology and like the importance of getting like the right kind of data. So ethics in data, I feel is very important. So that's something that, in the future we can all work towards.
You guys took the words right out of my mouth. Data science, storytelling, that's what kept me in data science. But I think what initially attracted me, going back to when I started my bachelor's at NJIT, I studied fintech, which I guess the Rutgers equivalent is probably bait. And coming to the realization that, I wanted to be a financial analyst, and financial data is just data at the end of the day. So to broaden my horizons, I kind of focused in more on data in general. And what keeps me going, I think, is that, data science, like, it's so applicable in every single type of like field, healthcare, consumer packaged goods, pharmaceuticals, marketing, finance. So, everyone has data, everyone wants to use it to their advantage. And just being well versed in data science opens up so many opportunities for you. So it's what really keeps me going. And it's a lot of fun. So storytelling with the data and just being able to create your own narrative whilst being responsible with the narrative and making sure your data has integrity is definitely something that, really interested me.
I guess I can go next. So honestly, I don't know if there's a specific point that got me interested in data science. I think I just always have liked looking at very random, useless data that no one would ever need to know. And upon learning how to apply that with data science, it kind of just made it easier to do that as opposed to just like remembering random numbers and whatever. So yeah, with data science, I've just learned a lot on how to take various pieces of data and apply that in ways that is useful and fun to do. And I guess what just keeps me going is just like being able to work with very different types of data and on very different tasks within data science. Data science is obviously a very massive field and has like a million different subfields within it. So just being able to work on various of those subfields, whether it's machine learning or just data visualization and stuff like that. Just the variety is very nice.
Yeah, I mean, basically what everyone has already said, but for me, similar to Michael, I even before I knew what data science was, I was already interested in like exploring random data sets I just found or like I knew a lot of information about but wanted to learn more. So like being able to create a story out of like a table of numbers has always been fascinating to me. but like when I started learning more about data science and the club itself, I got interested in like the machine learning side of things as well. And that like fascinated me, the fact that there are algorithms out there that can like predict stuff based on information you already had. So like I spent like I would say probably 2 or 3 months deep diving and like basically every single algorithm out there and like creating a bunch of projects surrounding all of that stuff. So yeah, that's kept me going with my interest in data science, and especially nowadays, like mentioned, like there's a lot going on with data science now with like the advancements of Gen AI and LLMs. I've been keeping up a lot with that. That's interesting. And then for me, one of my interests in data science, which isn't talked about as much, is computer vision. So working with image data, I think is super fascinating. I've done a couple projects with that, and I think that type of field is definitely one that's not exploited by as many people, but I find really interesting.
That's all really awesome and great responses, and I'm glad that most people, I guess, are still sticking with data science, and hopefully, Krishni, maybe your future jobs. And you still have so many years in your career ahead of you. So hopefully you can go back to, using more data. And I'm sure at some point you will. So now more to, I guess, school related questions. So to start off is, in your opinion, which courses at Rutgers offer the most valuable skills for the job market and in general job progression? So for example, I'm like a huge proponent of like Stat 1 or some version of just like an introductory statistics course, and not just for data science or tech or finance, like literally for everyone, even if you study philosophy or even English. I think it's like so much more fundamental, even more than a calculus class or anything else in the world. Like, you really can't get around the world without knowing basic statistics. So, do you guys have classes like that?
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Anastasia. Like stats are, a key component, learning how to use Excel also, I feel like is part of some stats classes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe my graduate coursework was a little bit different, but I would add on to that what I found most valuable was probably my information visualization courses, right? So courses that focus in on Tableau and, kind of really allow you, because that's my favorite part about telling the story, aside from cleaning the data and, kind of processing, analyzing, is to finally being able to share with stakeholders. And it's something that I notice is really, really valuable, especially in a lot of these job postings. They ask for experience in Looker, Tableau, Power BI, and just being able to build dashboards and interactive visualizations was really, really valuable. And, it's kind of a highlight of my current portfolio where I showcase, hey, look at this. I mean, you could look at my SQL queries, but I don't think you really want to see that. So here are some visualizations I have, and that kind of really drives a lot of, I'd say, interest from employers.
Yeah, I agree with you, Maz. And then also, I think one of the also, statistics also, Anastasia, I think is a really good point. Uh, but data structures, I think as a computer science major, if you want to say that, or like even for someone who's looking for a data science job, I think data structures, algorithms, having a thorough and fundamental understanding of that sort of logic is really important because it not only data structures is not something that directly is part of your day-to-day job. It is it or it could be, but also it helps you develop that sort of muscle memory of like whatever you want to do, it helps you build on it. So I think that's like one of the few classes at Rutgers that I think anyone in a technical profession, whoever is working with software, data, you know, data analysis, data science, I think it is really important to have a thorough and fundamental understanding of data structures. So that's one class that you should take. It is challenging, no doubt, but I think it's really gonna if you want to be part of this profession, this industry, then having that understanding is extremely crucial. That I would really put an emphasis on that. Like also all your job interviews. A lot of times I think they're looking at the logic and sort of seeing how, from a technical or logical standpoint, how do you think things? So that really helps you build that understanding. I think that's my point. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with that. I think data structures was something I started to like look at more after I graduated, since during my 4 years I was mostly just doing like math and like pure statistics. So I definitely agree with Karishni. Definitely try to strengthen your foundational skills as a person in tech in general. But also if you are looking at more of like an analysis basis, statistical like side of things, I would suggest like as an undergraduate course, stat inference. I think being able to know what you're looking at and how to like understand exactly how collecting this big data goes about, I think that's really important. So taking a class about inference really helps you kind of create points and know exactly what story you want to tell people before you tell it. So I'd say that's a really good class.
Um, I'm honestly not sure if there's any one specific class that people should take. There, every class has like a good use to it. And it really just depends on what you are trying to pursue. I would say specifically if you are trying to have a career in data science, I think that it's good to not just hyper focus on either just stats or just computer science type courses, because I think both in tandem are work very well, and that's pretty much the ideal. Um, on the job, you're probably going to have to do a lot of coding if you're in data science, and frankly, the stats courses at Rutgers are not going to teach you too much coding other than R, which R is still useful, but it's not the end all be all. And trying to get a data science position with just computer science background is probably, I mean, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's gonna be a lot more difficult.
Yeah, but we just
Just
finished.
because
Like it'll be done in like 2 minutes or like no.
Pranav, you're
Pranav, I think your mic is on.
Sorry, I
Unmuted
apologize.
him.
yeah. Um, where was I? Yeah, like just doing computer science is it's gonna be a lot more difficult to get a job and a lot more difficult to actually work in data science because sure you can code and maybe you'll be able to like physically like code whatever you need to do, but a lot of data science is just interpretation. A lot of it is um like getting I would say like broader tasks and trying to narrow it down. So I'd say getting a good mix of CS classes and stats. I think the courses that were suggested within both so far have like they all work. Um, and yeah.
I mean, yeah, I basically agree with what everyone else has said. I wish I took my own data visualization course while in Rutgers because that's I think a skill that I can definitely improve on. But in terms of recommendations, I would take it in a different perspective. So if you're more interested in some of like the more high level roles, like more like advanced data science or like machine learning engineer, those type of roles, I think having a fundamental understanding of a lot of the different like basics of machine learning is such an important part if you want to try and develop further. So for those types of like roles, I would recommend the linear algebra course. I believe that's required for the CS major. I don't know if it is for data science, but if not, I would recommend taking that because a lot of different algorithms use matrices of different kinds, and being able to understand that is important. And also calculus 3 is very important, especially if you want to get into something like deep learning. Understanding how gradient descent works is such a important aspect of like so many different machine learning algorithms. If you don't, it's like it's probably a question you would get like in an interview. So like being able to learn that from a Calc 3 class is really important. So that's what I would recommend, especially for those like higher level, more advanced data science roles.
I just want to add one more thing, which is that I think with all these courses is that they are only useful if you are not just going through them with ChatGPT. Um, Frankly, like, okay, ChatGPT is very useful and I do use it on the job, as I'm sure a lot of people do. Well, Anastasia, I'd see how shocked you are.
Is this how
But
government is
This is being
working? You
recorded.
need to be cut by Doge. I'm gonna
it's
make
it's
a report.
we're allowed to do it. It's fine. I'm being more efficient. But yeah, like you're probably gonna end up using it. I think the thing, especially with like coursework, is that if you don't learn the foundation without ChatGPT, it's going to be way harder when on the job you are doing a lot more complex problems that aren't easily ChatGPT-able. At least, like again, like in government work, for example, a lot of the time I'll be working somewhere where I don't have access to the internet, in which case ChatGPT is just not an option, in which case, like you're screwed if you don't know the fundamentals. So definitely, I'm not saying don't use it at all. Like if you forget how to print an R or something, then sure you can look it up rather than Googling it. But like don't just copy and paste your whole assignment and do it, even if it's possible.
Definitely agree with that. The best way is to do projects that are easier while you're still in school so that you understand how these systems work. And then later on, you can kind of guide the LLM, ChatGPT, whatever, to be a lot more efficient. Like, I took some courses in web development, right? And learning the front end, back end, making simple website projects, blogs, and such. But learning how to like code through that has made the world of a difference when it comes to, you know, trying to create something in a faster, more efficient manner for my side projects that I'm working on through ChatGPT because I know exactly what I'm trying to get done and how it's going to get done, but leaving kind of the more manual labor to the LLM.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Now that we're speaking about ChatGPT, there's also for people that are freshmen or sophomores. Initially, the assignments are like simple enough for ChatGPT to understand and do them. But then as you go forward into, say, your senior year, the assignments are not going to be directly ChatGPT-able. So how do you use ChatGPT to your benefit then? Depends on the foundational knowledge that you gather during your first and your second year. So if you're going to use ChatGPT in your initial classes, then you're just not going to know how to use it later. So that I would suggest just take the challenge initially, and then eventually, I guess it'll just become a little more simpler.
Yeah, I just want to add to this ChatGPT discussion because firstly, I want to say if you're using it and you're just copy and paste it, it is very obvious. I have worked with group mates who have done that, and it has been so clear to me, and their code has always been wrong. It has not worked, so I don't recommend that. But I would say it is a very great learning tool. You can learn a lot from just asking it different types of questions if you're not understanding a concept, and it's great in distilling that type of information, but it's not the end all be all. Like Michael mentioned, you might not get access to it. Like Bloomberg, we only got access to ChatGPT like 1 or 2 weeks ago, and it's been like 2.5 years since its release. And even if you do gain access, you're going to be dealing with data that is restricted to the company, and they don't want that released publicly, or they don't want like the LLMs to train on it. So you're likely not even going to be able to use it to its full extent. So like being able to understand what you're working with and figuring it out with the assistance of ChatGPT, not doing all of the coding for you, is really important.
Of course, thank you so much for all of the insight about the classes and then obviously ChatGPT. And yeah, I fully agree with everyone. And yeah, it is a really great learning tool. And for even things outside of, school and etc. It's just like, well, you get obviously everyone knows it, but it's really awesome. I use it all the time. And there's also we've even done a separate meeting that there's many alternatives to AI other than ChatGPT, and also knowing which one to use and when is a huge skill and a huge bonus. So, but now moving on to the next question, and I guess on the flip side, what are some data science related skills you believe are essential yet have not really been touched at the Rutgers curriculum, and that you recommend that these things you wish that you learned while you were still at Rutgers, while you still had, a lot of free time and no work responsibilities?
So as a computer science major, I think statistics, if you're someone like me who was a computer science major, did not I did not do many courses. I mean, I did enough data science, computer science intersection courses, but not enough to do a major or a minor, right? So for someone like me who's a CS major looking to go into data science, I think statistics is something that you can get away with and graduate without knowing. So if you're doing data science interviews as a computer science major, I think taking, like as Seja mentioned, introductory statistics courses would really help. Because in my personal experience, I did do a bunch of data science interviews, one of them being at Bloomberg, Anton, and they did ask me statistics. So I think that is something that I think is really helpful. Yeah.
Definitely agree, Krishni. In a lot of the interviews, they do ask a lot of statistical questions. But to add on to that too, I'd say, Excel, even though we kind of look past it as, oh, this is like, you know, easy stuff, mastering that is very valuable. I've been interviewing for consultant roles, data analyst roles, data science analyst roles, which is like a weird term, but whatever. And they ask a lot about Excel. So I definitely recommend, learning the ins and outs of that and trying to get to a 10 out of 10 in Excel proficiency. Another thing I'd like to add is in my data analytics courses, data science course, machine learning courses, the process of writing that paper, getting that final report out, I think it's something that we don't really value enough, right? Because going through the process and highlighting it and then publishing it, whatever, and like showing it to the professor, we don't take that into account when we're trying to explain it during a resume, in our resume, or how we explain our skills. I'd say it's really valuable to understand the data analytics process, you know, understanding how every, little piece works, and we can learn a lot from how we write our papers. And if you could effectively communicate that as to how you cleaned your data and why you did what you did, it's not something that's explicitly taught, but at the end of the day, being a clear communicator is one of the biggest things in data science, because you're going to be breaking down so many complex topics to technical and non-technical teams. You're going to liaison between a lot of different groups, and being able to kind of communicate that is really important, which is why in the interviews you need to be able to communicate that, because that's something they're looking for. They're looking for someone who can effectively communicate, break down concepts into explaining it to like a 5-year-old. And, it's something that we kind of overlook. So try to don't just list out the tools, but weave the tools into the process and say why you use certain tools. Like, I used Excel to clean this data. I use SQL to analyze it. I use Tableau to, visualize it. That's like a really high level overview, but getting into depth about that is really valuable.
Yep. I actually really agree with what Maz ended with, which like a lot of my job is talking to people that don't know too much data science, and so you definitely would need to talk to people that are not technical, also technical, obviously, but a lot of non-technical people, and being able to explain your work is very useful with non-technical terms. If I had to pick like a more specific thing to learn at Rutgers, which at least when I was there, I feel like there wasn't in undergrad, there was not too many courses in machine learning or NLP and stuff like that. There are some that kind of scratch the surface, but I think, frankly speaking, data science is a very oversaturated field and is getting more and more oversaturated. I want to say it was UCLA or something where like the largest major now is data science. So it's a very large field. And it's also one that is just like with a lot of other computer science related jobs is getting thinned out because of ChatGPT. I'm not going to start a ChatGPT conversation again to help out Anastasia, but it's definitely something where if you are entering the field of data science, you definitely want to learn essentially the things making all these AI innovations, as opposed to being the person that just does the medial coding tasks that will be taken over sometime soon. So obviously, those medial stuff is still useful, but it'll eventually um, be a lot more easier for people that don't know too much coding to be able to do, and you kind of want to be able to do more higher level stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So like based off of that, in order to really, I guess, stand out in in like the modern world, I'd say it's really important to understand exactly what you're doing. I mean, as a statistics major, I mostly just did like theory stuff, theory-based things, or just used R. So I didn't really have like a strong foundation in like how to apply this or how do I use what I've learned into like an algorithm or to actually use it in the data science field. So I think that's something that's really important. Like how Karishni mentioned taking statistics as a computer science major. I think as a statistics major or like a more like a mathematical based major, I think that it's really important to take like a computer science class, maybe like data structures, that'd be really good. Having like that strong foundation would like help you stand out. You'd be able to explain what you're doing to yourself, but also to people who don't know what you're doing, in a better way that like ChatGPT can obviously not explain it that way. So it'll just like it'll help you separate yourself from something that can take over your job so easily, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically going last and agreeing with all the points, but I just want to reiterate what Maz and Michael said about like being able to like distill what the work you've done and explain it to others. So I think like I know there's the public speaking class, so I think that is a very, very important skill in data science, being able to explain what your work did, how it's going to impact the end consumers. All of that is such an important skill that's not really covered in any of the data science classes I've taken. Like the best you get is like you're given a project, you submit it, and then that's it. It's graded. You're never asked about like why you did this over another decision, what exactly this means for the end user, and all of those concepts. That's something you need to kind of learn on your own if you want to be able to do it. And plus, like in the interview process, if you're going to be asked questions on like you're given like an example data set and you're working with that, you need to be able to think out loud, like explain your process. And especially for those that aren't as technical, you need to be able to like I wouldn't say dumb it down, but like simplify it for others who don't understand the tech stack or don't understand the algorithms going on behind all of this. And it's such an important aspect that I can't restate enough. It's not really covered in terms of the curriculums at Rutgers, but it is something you should definitely try and work on.
Thank you so much for these responses. And I guess to highlight this point, I'm about to start like a job as a quantitative researcher this summer, and I had a coffee chat with the group head of the place where he, heads 30 people, and he's been in this position for a very long time. He's a very successful man. So I asked him the question like, why do you think you've become so successful and you are essentially where you are? And he told me that the biggest reason for that is literally what all you guys mentioned, that he's able to explain very high level things in a very simple matter that people, it's like very digestible and people can easily understand it, and therefore people tend to listen to him more opposed to like other, his other peers, which are not able to do that. So that just shows that obviously all of us, even all of our alumni, we're not that old, right? We haven't had these careers for, dozens of years, but he has. And this person confirmed this exact point. So I just wanted to reemphasize that. And I guess now we'll move on to the more, I guess, career-based questions. And I would like to start with how big of a role does networking play in data science recruitment? Like many of us know, in other fields like finance, it's almost mandatory to do networking. Like you have to cold email, cold call, you have to do cold LinkedIn, like, oh, can I hop on a coffee chat, et cetera, to get recommendations in order to get the job. But would you say it's something similar in data science or in tech from your experience, or would you say networking has a different way in tech, or would you say there's networking is not important?
I guess I can just start. But so to be very honest, I think any job you want, networking is really, really big. Uh, you're spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day with this person at work. So you know, a lot of times people tend to um, choose people that they have interacted with before rather than going in for a surprise for someone who's applied online. So a lot of times I think maybe it's not as efficient as it is in finance, but networking is really big for any technical, say, software engineering or data science jobs that you want. I think putting yourself out there, networking might not just be cold emailing or like LinkedIn or something. There's a bunch of other ways in, say, data science or software that can really help you, which is career conferences, for example. There's Grace Hopper, there's SHIP, there's, I think, I forget, Society of Women Engineers. Uh, there's a bunch of other conferences. There's a bunch of job fairs. One at Rutgers also, career fairs. Just putting yourself out there. There's open source contributions on GitHub. There's Kaggle competitions that companies sponsor. Um, then there's hackathons, datathons. So basically, just make yourself seen, where you can see that, okay, this is a place where a potential recruiter can spot me, or this is a place where a potential engineer can spot me. That's where you go. And obviously, there's referrals for sure. There's people there's the alumni network you have. There's there might be people that outside of that. There's mentors that can really help you. But at a surface level, I think just applying online might not be as efficient in today's world. It might not be enough in today's world. So networking is really big, but yeah, when you compare to careers like finance, it's not that important. So maybe if you have decent enough projects or if you're like good enough, then maybe just applying online is also okay.
Yeah, Karishni hit the nail on the head over there. And just to piggyback off of what Michael said, data science is super saturated now. Uh, that, school in California having it as their number one major is actually kind of scary. But, at the end of the day, what really matters is, I mean, you guys should need to understand these employers are willing to train you up, right? They're not as much concerned with this person needs to know every single thing. They want to know if you are someone who can learn, someone who can show up on time, can do a good job, and can work independently. And like Karishni said, you're going to be sitting next to these people, maybe not if you're remote, but you're going to be interacting with them. They want to have someone that they like. Being likable is important, because a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing, especially as a data scientist, you're not going to be locked away in your own little corner. You're going to be communicating with a lot of people, and networking is super important. I'd say like 80% of the interviews I've gotten are through networking, right? Whether it's like, connecting with people who I share similar backgrounds with. A lot of Rutgers alumni are very willing to help you out. Whether it's some cultural affiliation, Rutgers affiliation, or if you like are from the same town, right? So, just interestingly enough, I've been really talking to someone, a data science manager at Google, who's from the same town as me, and we related on our favorite pizza spot here, right? So that's just an example, right? And I actually took some notes on this, so. Yeah, networking is super important. Coffee chats, really important. There's a lot of competition, but that shouldn't scare you. When people, I see a lot of posts like, I applied to 900 applications. I didn't get a single response. I'm doomed. Life sucks. And you try to tell them, hey, like, maybe put yourself out there. A lot of people are really afraid to put themselves out there. Anastasia knows this. I've been on a kind of a LinkedIn posting spree lately, right? Making sure I'm engaging with a lot of people, posting a lot about relevant topics. Not so much so that they like it, but so that I'm a fresh face in people's heads when they're thinking about, oh, hey, I'm hiring for XYZ role. And when I reach out to them, it's not like a completely random person's reaching out to them. They're like, oh, I kind of remember this guy, right? So networking is super important. Um, yeah, I think just to bring it back full circle, they're willing to train you up. They don't have any qualms about that. It more so boils down to, you know, are you going to fit in well? So that's something that's really important.
Okay, I'll try to be quick because I know Anastasia's worried about the time. I'm not going to disagree. I think networking is very useful. I will say that as an introvert, I am very bad at it. So I don't want to make people get scared and say like it is literally impossible to get a job without it. I got my job without knowing anyone at my company. But I think what I will say, I think it gets a lot easier to network once you have your first job, just because then you can meet people at your company. And I think there it's a lot more natural to just like casually talk to people in your office as opposed to randomly trying to cold message people on LinkedIn. I get how that's daunting. Um, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. And in the spirit of networking, I'll also send my LinkedIn in the chat.
I want to say I agree with what everyone has said so far, but I want to try and take it from a different perspective, especially in terms of the future career. Obviously, like networking, like being in this club is super important. Going to a bunch of like tech, like networking events is important. But I think a very underrated aspect is networking with people outside of data science and outside of the tech sphere. So like if you're a part of any other club or like if you do like a sport regularly or something like to that degree where you're like meeting with a group, be able to like try to network with those people as well. Because imagine like someone is working for a company, they don't have any technical experience, but they are aware that someone on the team or someone they know is looking for a data scientist. Now they don't know like a million different data scientists because they're not networking in the space. But if they know you and if they know that you are interested in data science, you will be a number one candidate for them because they already have that knowledge and experience of you. As compared to someone who's already in the data science space, they probably have like 50 people they can reach out to. So I think being able to network outside of just the data science sphere is such an important aspect, especially like maybe not for the first job, but especially further down in your career. I would say that's really, really important.
Of course.
Also,
Oh, sorry, go
Michael,
ahead.
thanks for dropping your LinkedIn. Let's all of us, drop our LinkedIns. I think it would give, you know, anyone who wants to add us a good chance. And yeah, I sent that ad real quick, Michael.
To, I guess, further Maz's point, we have a spreadsheet that's called Data Science Club Alumni. I will share the spreadsheet individually with our alumni, and I'm assuming a lot of also of you guys on call who are not yet our alumni are about to graduate alongside me in May of 2025. And even though you're not yet graduating, you are kind of graduating in a month. So please, before you forget, I post it all the time on GroupMe. Please add yourself, and this is how we can, keep the alumni circle going. And yeah, keep adding your LinkedIn's. I sadly cannot because while I'm recording, it's not letting me do anything on my computer. And another point that
I'll post yours in the chat as well.
Oh, okay, thank you. Great. Another, I guess, the last perspective of networking that I wanted to personally add is that especially once you already have a job or an internship, some people might be like, oh, what's the point of networking then? Especially once they have a job that they, secured and they think that they want to stay there for a couple of years and it's like at a good level. I think it's especially important to network then because just just in general, just in terms of friends, just in terms of connections, right? And then you never know, they might have like later on in their lives like your dream opportunity, or you might get laid off and then there will be a networking position for you, or it might be even the opposite, right? You might learn more about them, and then when you need somebody, once you're on the job, you are, expanding and your team is looking for somebody, you know that this person is perfect for you. So I think it's especially important to network even once you kind of like reach your intermediate goal.
100%. Just because this is so relevant, literally a couple days ago, one of my not coworkers, he was the chief data officer at What If Media Group. He works at Yahoo as a chief data scientist now, and they had a senior business intelligence role posted. I reached out to him. I was able to interview, but it was a pretty senior role, and things didn't really work out. But this is to say that, keep networking. It's not, you're not going to be, you don't want to be caught lacking, basically. You don't want to be caught like needing only networking when you need it. You want to have these relationships built. You don't want to have shallow relationships. And yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And since I guess we're sharing anecdotes, like tomorrow I'm meeting a managing director that I know from RBC, my sophomore internship, but he's not in data at all. He's the head of taxes. But he has introduced me to so many people, like all of his best friends are like, the head of asset management at Bank of America, the head of quantitative trading at RBC, and etc. So he's a great connect. And even 2 years later, we always like, twice a year meet up for dinner, for drinks. Just I update, he's kind of my mentor. I update him on my life. He tells me like what opportunities and, gives general advice. So yeah, even you should be even networking with people that are not directly within your sphere, because you never know who they know. And I guess moving on to the next question, and we kind of mentioned it, I know Anton kind of touched upon it, but I imagine all of us have been faced with rejection and employment issues at some point, and whether it's trouble trying to find a full-time or an internship position, what advice would you give to those students who have been trying for a very long time to get an internship or a job, but it's just not working out? Like I keep hearing these stories, and also Moz mentioned like the dooms posting on Reddits, etc. Like what would you recommend to these people?
I just want to start off because I know we've been following a pattern, but
Okay.
I'm gonna take this one, Karishni, okay? I'm in the process right now, but I just want to say you're not alone. I've been rejected so many times, ghosted randomly, last second, getting a call that's like 20 seconds long after I got the job offer saying, the role's been canceled, we gotta go, bye-bye. And it's definitely heartbreaking. You're gonna be sitting thinking about it, but you gotta keep going, right? Because at the end of the day, I'd say it's not really a numbers game, because if you're using the same strategy over and over again, uh, don't do that. But you want to be, each interview, each rejection has made me sharper, and just keep your spirits up. Trust me, it's gonna get tough, but you want to be able to stay consistent. Once you interview, keep going at the same pace in applying and networking, and building up your skill set. I recommend starting a portfolio as well if you guys already have it. This is a good website for it, datascienceportfol.io. Um, and it helps you, like it's a platform where you get to see a lot of different other people's stuff. But just to keep it short, volume, consistency, don't be afraid to pivot, whether it's, analytics more than science, whether it's maybe a program management role, because a lot of these program management roles do require you to have a lot of data science expertise. And yeah, just learn to storytell, learn to connect with people, and keep going.
I think just popcorning off of what Mass said. I think like improvise, keep improvising. If you think something is not working, keep changing it, and maybe something works. You never know. but also put yourself in positions where you're not just giving them a link to your resume or you're just like putting it as a PDF. A paper resume it really, I think it really brings a powerful impact on who you are as a person. So as I'm saying, like putting yourself out there in competitions, in hackathons, datathons, career fairs, where you can actually give a recruiter a resume on paper, because then they're going to take a look at it. At least that one 20-second, 10-second glance, quick glance might be enough to give you your chance, you know? So that that manual look, I think, is really important. So just put yourself out there, and I think that just would really help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also going through the same thing right now. I think it's really important what both of you guys said. That's all very important. It's important to put yourself out there. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. If you're scared, maybe that's a good sign. Having some nerves is always good, you know. But try to kind of like put yourself in situations where you know that it'll be difficult, but you can gain so much from other people. Surround yourself with people who you know can like push you forward and can help you out. And also just like personally, it's really tough to not say that like, oh, like what's going on? What's wrong with like my resume? What's wrong with what I'm doing? Is there something wrong with like me? Is that why it's not working out? But honestly, it's more like it's not. The most important thing is to not lose that hope that you could still like keep going. And it can be tough, but I think because of how oversaturated the data science industry is, or just in general how the market's going right now, it's really important to just keep pushing forward and putting yourself in these uncomfortable situations, no matter how bad it makes you feel. It's the only way you can still grow as a person and as a data scientist, as an individual. It'll help you enhance your public speaking, your storytelling skills. You'll gain more connections, you'll meet new people, and that's all just going to help you get that really good role that you've been looking for. So,
Just something to add because I've been helping out my company a bit with recruiting. One, most likely that's not the case for you, but just make sure that your resume doesn't have any errors on it. Today I was looking at a resume where someone misspelled their university from like for Stanford, they put an extra D, Stanford. Um, I don't know why.
They should
So
get thrown out. Like, come on.
yeah, so like those silly mistakes, like obviously if your resume is very good, it'll be fine, but you know it's kind of avoidable. Um, and then also just as an example for like the position that's open at my company, there's been I think 1,500 resumes submitted, and it's being evaluated by hand by two people in HR for the most part, at least for the initial stage. Like most likely, if you're rejected, you're not rejected because someone had a lot of time to look at your resume. They just, it's kind of like with college applications, like you're one of many thousands of people that they're taking a quick glance at. I don't like take it personally. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to what Michael said, that person probably had a great resume, Stanford and everything, but if you're not checking for the extra spelling mistakes, that means you're not coming in prepared. Same as what Karishni said, putting in that extra effort with the paper resume, it goes to show more about your personality that, hey, I take this really seriously and I'm prepared for it and I'm trying to do my best, which employers really value.
I'll just add on one last point to this. I think one of the things you really need to consider when you're creating your resume is if it's tailor-made to the company. Obviously, it's very easy nowadays with AIs to mass apply to a lot of companies, but everyone is doing it at the same time. So especially if you want to go into a specific field, whether that's something like if you want to go into finance, if you want to go into like sports analytics, stuff like that, you want to try and tailor your resume with that in terms of like not only just like the key terms inside the actual what's it called? I'm blanking on the word. on the job application. That's it. But also like try and create projects surrounding that, relating to that, because that'll definitely be more engaging for that type of company you're looking for. It'll make you stand out a lot more, and it'll show that you're actually interested in this topic outside of just looking for it as a job. And it'll be like such a big impact because your goal when applying isn't to be the top 10% of the candidates. Your goal is to be the number one candidate. So it doesn't matter if you're applying and you're the top 10% candidate every single job. It just matters if you're the number one candidate for one job. So that's just such a big thing.
I think that was really good, Anton. Also, write cover letters. Don't leave any fields blank when you're applying. In order to be number one, you need to give your 100%. So that should, even if you're applying to 100 jobs a day, every single job you apply to should be the only job that you want. So every single time you're applying, give your best. So then you don't need to do the 900 applications, you know? If you're just doing 20 that are tailor-made for you, then I think there's a higher chance you're going to get the job rather than the 900 applications you're doing and just like for the heck of it, you know?
I completely agree with Anton and especially what Karishni said. I remember, especially, I generally have very high interview rates. Like I get like 15% interview rates from my applications. And I think like obviously number one, I have like a fairly good amount of companies on my resume. But the first thing while I was a sophomore or junior with not that much experience is that I actually put in effort into my cover letters. And then my other peers would sometimes be like, Anastasia, are you crazy? Why is it taking you an hour to create this cover letter? I spent 5 minutes on my cover letters. I was like, okay, you got 2 interviews after 300 applications. Like, do you see the difference between us? Like sure, you could do what you do, but obviously it's working for me. So I'm gonna continue, grinding and doing this. So I completely agree. And from personal experience, it really helps a lot when you put a lot of effort into every single application and you tailor make your resume. And I guess along with the resume point and what specifically Michael said about how many applicants are to this role, like at his company, right? 1,500. And not to say anything bad about your role, Michael, but there's a lot more like more clout roles, right? So imagine how many applications does Bloomberg or Bank of America or Goldman Sachs gets. They tens or 20 times more, right? So how do you stand out with them? You almost want to clickbait the people that are reviewing your resume, right? So people sometimes come up to me and they're like, oh, Anastasia, I have like 2 internships. One is at a smaller company, but it's something more that I want to do. And another one is at a bigger company, but it's not really what I want to do. I always recommend the bigger company because when you'll be reapplying for further internships and jobs, they're just going to see the word Walmart, Netflix, and they're like, obviously the HR person is like, I know that company. That makes a lot more sense. They don't know about some startup with 10 people in it, frankly. And they're not going to care enough to read your bullet points and your fancy, like, AI and machine learning models. They're just going to see the big words. So you have to be like strategic with what you pick. And since we're sort of running out of time, I will wrap up the career questions and go to our ending section. So would any of our alumni like to share any final additional things that we have not really covered with our questions, but you think is very important for our students to know?
I think there's one point that I would really like to make. In today's economy, in today's job market, the jack of all trades, master of none is not going to work. Identify a niche and work on it, become the expert, become the SME, the subject matter expert, and be the best in that one thing. And then apply to, say, 15 jobs. But if you're the best, you're going to get all of those 15 jobs rather than you being a generalist, because this market is for specialists, not for generalists. So if you're a specialist, you're gonna be sought after because people still need people that are, they know what they're doing. And so identify this one thing that's your strong suit, and then just know so much about it that you can like impress the interviewer. So just be passionate about one thing and keep doing it rather than there's 10 different things that I can do, and none of them you can do as good as someone else can. I think that's really important in today's market to just keep in mind when you're looking for jobs, especially.
I've talked a lot, so I'm gonna keep this short. Uh, you guys have unlimited potential, so be confident in that. Be like very confident, but be patient with the grind and yeah, just, stay close to the people who push you forward, right? Like over here, Data Science Club, though where a lot of us are graduated now, we still keep in touch, and I hope that continues for a long time moving forward. Build your tribe and yeah, just keep your head up because trust me, it could definitely get difficult, but don't allow yourself to be discouraged.
I just want to really emphasize the importance of specialization. I would say there's no such thing as being too specialized. Well, okay, within reason, but yeah. Like you can be very good at even just one aspect of data science and still it'll often be hard to get a job just because there's going to be a lot of people that are, I don't know, like let's take, I don't know, data visualization. I don't think there's a job that's specifically just data visualization, but whatever. Even if you were really good at it, it's still, even just data visualization alone is a fairly large field. Um, so I'll just give the example of like my companies, like the several people that I know that have gotten my position at the company, at least purely in terms of like college experience, they had data science experience on top of other stuff like economics or political science or something along that sort. And honestly, especially with data science, it's always useful to have a secondary thing that you're good at specifically with data science. Um, you can choose whatever you want, whether that's like it could be like plant biology for all I know, but just like some other secondary things. So that way, when you're applying to companies, let's say it's like your data science and plant biology, and then you're applying to like some environmental company that needs data science, then you're gonna stand out a lot more than someone that just does data science or machine learning or something like that.
I think one point I want to add in terms of the education, obviously the bachelor's degree is what a lot of you are here for, but I know there was meant to be one questions for the master's, but due to time we couldn't really get to it. But I think the master's degree is something that can be a major difference. Obviously, it is a big step. Obviously, the price point is a big aspect to it. But if you're struggling to find jobs right now, and if you were ever considering doing a master's down the line, I think it's definitely something you should try and consider. Like for me, example, before my master's, I had projects on my resume, but I didn't have any interview experience. And because I was doing one more year of schooling, I was able to get this internship at Bloomberg, which eventually landed me the full-time role. And plus, it allows you to learn a lot more of the technical details that you might not learn. Like Michael mentioned, that a lot of the classes we have, they teach a lot of intro to like data science concepts, but they don't really go into the technical details involving a lot of like the math behind it. So I think being able to take a master's will definitely help you a lot, especially the data science masters at Rutgers. I definitely learned a lot more in terms of the math behind it. And that is especially useful for a lot more, again, like I mentioned, those more advanced roles like machine learning engineer, or if you want to do like an AI researcher type of role. So it's definitely something you can consider. If you guys have any questions about doing a master's, you can feel free to reach out and that type of stuff. But that's definitely something you should try and keep in mind.
And I think with that, we're gonna obviously wrap up all the questions for alumni. But if any one of you guys are now our members, if any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat right now or just, speak up. I'm gonna give like a minute.
Hello?
Hi, yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, cool. So I have mostly just one question. I hear all the time from data science people like projects, 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 projects. I'm an economics major along with my data science. So when I'm not that great at coding yet or any of this stuff really, but where would be good places to look for when it comes to ideas for projects?
So I sent in the chat datascienceportfolio.io, and it's a great place because it has like everyone's projects out there, right? And you could just browse through them. And I think a great technique is finding a project you really like and tweaking it in like two or three small ways. Maybe, you know, going to a different subject matter. If it's Spotify music, maybe look at Apple Music. I don't know, but there's a lot of different ways to get into projects. If you really want to learn how to do projects, do the Google Data Analytics certificate, because it's one thing to have a project and showing off you know the tools. It's another thing to know why you use certain tools and explaining your process. So it's worth the what, $20 a month? I don't know how much it is. But you could finish it in like 3 months if you're dedicated.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think I just want to add that, at least from my experience, like I think yeah, I mentioned that I had double majored in poli sci. And for me, whenever I tried to think of projects, I just based it around my poli sci degree, where I think it's easiest and also best to do projects in data science that are around something that you are passionate about. So I don't know if that is economics for you, since you said that you're majoring in it. But it could be something else, if anything. But like if I chose econ as an example, I'd say just find some part of econ that you really like, and then like that you are maybe that you're curious about, and then make and base the project around that. Obviously, like you said, you don't have too much coding experience yet, and I'm sure that will um, add up over time. But like even if it's something very simple, just something in econ or something that you're passionate about, and then it becomes way easier to actually work on it.
Thank you.
I do want to add just one more point. I think a big thing for me was being able to learn a lot of what I know from YouTube is very useful. There are millions of different videos, not on just like different types of algorithms or like machine learning concepts, stuff like that, but there's also a bunch of different project templates. You can like go follow literally step by step, go through them, and you can have a project after that. And my one little secret is you can do those projects, but choose a different data set. So, for example, you're doing economics. So, there's definitely a bunch of like time series analysis projects out there, but you can, like, instead of doing like a healthcare data set, you can focus on, I don't know, some financial like stock data set. So, like, there's a bunch of different stuff available on YouTube. And if you just follow one of those guides and choose your own custom data set that you are knowledgeable about and you can do your own analysis on, I think that's a very, very good way to get a project going.
Also, when you're doing a project, so say you're an econ major, you might have some target companies in mind that you want to apply to. So think of it this way, choose a project that you think the person that's interviewing you is passionate about or probably likes, you know? So customize it according to the companies that you want to apply to. Yeah, if you're a plant biology major, of course, do a plant project, but then you're applying to the plant companies, you're not applying to a bank, you know? So that's something I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And this
Anyone?
link that Maaz sent, really helpful. I've used it before. Informationisbeautiful.com.
Best information visualizations you will ever see. So many project ideas. And I think like two of my professors really sent this out, like, take a look at this. So definitely use it. It's a real academic slash professional way to go about it.
It's really awesome. Does anybody else have any other questions? And you obviously, we posted everybody's LinkedIn, so nobody has excuses about not finding our wonderful alumni. I'm sure all of you guys are open to, receiving DM requests about personalized like coffee chats or just in general questions. So you'll be able to reach out to them like that.
100% reach out to me. And if you guys are okay with it, I would appreciate if we could take a little screenshot, say cheese, turn on your cameras. You know, if not, all good. Got my alumni here, and we'll be taking the screenshot. I just want to milk it for the LinkedIn real quick.
If you're on the e-board, please turn on your, I'm gonna put in my presidential power, turn on your cameras, please. Thank you, Pranav.
President has spoken. All right.
We will remove you from eBoard if you don't.
Yeah, and I'll tag, I'll tag you guys. I'll tag all the alumni buddies. And if you guys want to be tagged, just reach out to me. I got my LinkedIn over there. Please add me. So, all right. Say cheese. All right. Got it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for everyone who turned on the camera. And yeah, thank you so much for joining in. I think we're gonna wrap up the meeting with that. Thank you.
It was great seeing all you guys again.
Thank you guys.